Good evening, Lakshyaraj. Hope you are all
Very
free.
good.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Lakshyaraj, for making time. And if you allow me, can I read a little introduction of you that I had kind of handwritten half an hour ago?
GG.
Wonderful. Good evening, friends. Welcome to our club, Education India, on Clubhouse, where we keep inviting the brilliant voices in the field of education. And today we have a big name from the education ecosystem, Lakshyaraj Singh Mewar of Udaipur. Lakshyaraj Singh Mewar of Udaipur honed skills with a degree at the Blue Mountains International Hotel Management School, Australia, and successfully completed a professional development program from Cornell Nanyang Institute of Hospitality Management, besides completing the Bachelor of Commerce in Hospitality and Tourism course from the University of New England. Lakshyaraj is deeply involved with several developmental works and the growth of Maharana Mewar Public School in the eastern wing of the palace, Udaipur. I've been there, and friends, trust me, it's one of the most beautiful schools. And under his leadership, of course, the school has been voted as best school of Udaipur by leading agencies. He remains a committed sports administrator, promoting cricketers, young swimmers, athletes, and badminton players from Udaipur and Rajasthan. And Laksharaj has also received a number of noteworthy awards and has been facilitated four times by the Guinness World of Records. And once, I think it was first Laksharaj when I was also there in Udaipur along with you at Shikarbadi, and that was amazing. I mean, I think it was raining the other day, and I'll kind of four of his Guinness Book of World Record. I mean, first for his outstanding initiative towards Vastradan campaign, a state and nationwide campaign for the collection of clothes for recycle donation, and I saw truckloads of clothes coming in the palace and going out of the palace that day. Second Guinness Book of World Record came for the largest donation of school supplies in 24 hours, where I also took a promise from lecturers that please keep a packet of Natraj pencils for me. I mean, if you're creating a world record, I mean, at least I deserve one pencil box. And third initiative of getting a Guinness Book of World Record was Go Green initiative called Vriksh Hi Jeevan Abhiyan for the most people potting plants simultaneously. Therefore, the previous world record for most saplings planted in 60 seconds was I think at 2000. But this initiative broke the previous record with 4,035 saplings spotted in less than 60 seconds. And finally, the fourth one was for the most personal hygiene products donated in 1 hour on 25th January 2021. During the second wave of COVID-19, Laksharaj also donated an ambulance to Indian Army stationed at Eklinji Cantonment, Udaipur, and that was in May 2021 to help the Indian soldiers and their families for use in emergency circumstances. Aside from business, Laksharaj's pursuit ran deep. The sportsman in him still prevails with a deep and abiding love for the national game of cricket. Today, he focuses on sports administration, and under his able stewardship, as president of Udaipur District Cricket Association, the local cricket team had a good run of success. A very, very warm welcome, Laksharaj, and thank you for making time for this conversation.
Not at all. Absolutely a pleasure.
Brilliant. Laksharaj, your bio on Clubhouse, Twitter, and other social media platforms read a free-spirited traveler, a scientific sadhu, a rational philosopher who dreams of a world without boundaries, making chaotically creative energy. Please elaborate this.
I thought we had an agreement that there's going to be no difficult questions.
There
So
will be a
I
few.
think in the first ball you are very much deviated from our original conversation or original understanding that we had between each other.
A lot
But
of people
nevertheless,
actually reached out to me for that.
well, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I don't think that, especially on a platform of this nature, that there is an elaboration or an expansion that is needed. I think um, uh, the paradoxes of life. What I will talk about is the ideology behind it. I think otherwise the quote is pretty clear in what it has to express and communicate. But I think the paradoxes of life is what one is trying to really communicate here. From a scientific, from being scientific to moving to a sadhu, from chaotism to moving to creativity. So I think all these things that are born out of all these sort of different scenarios, circumstances is what the beauty is, and something that I have always said all my life. Here, the idea is not to go through life, but the idea is to grow through life. So I think the phenomena of having to grow and the journey that you have embarked on, and the paradoxes that come across, and then weighing all of them in different scenarios, circumstances, is what the whole joy is. Because I think there is no boring word than consistency on this planet, according to me. And there is no more beautiful word, in according to me, than contradiction, as far as I'm concerned. So that is what this entire quote, or these four lines of a free spirited traveler, a scientific sadhu, a rational philosopher, making me a chaotically creative energy, comes out of.
Interesting, very interesting. And I mean, let's start this session from Lakshyaraj in his childhood. So, what are your fondest memories of your growing years, Lakshyaraj?
I think that's where, subconsciously, somewhere or the other, the idea of being a free-spirited person, that kind of comes out, is very much there. I think, because I was perhaps more of a loner in life, somebody who was very much to himself, somebody who was looking for a corner in a round room. I think have been very interesting now in hindsight when I look at it. Yes, I felt really aloof then, because there was a lot of societal and peer and family and other sort of pressure that, oh, you should have friends and you should have this, because those were the report cards of how you were really judged, in the sense of how many friends you have, which friends you have, where they come from, who they are, what you are doing. So the phenomena of somebody being to themselves was very alien to people 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So I think those childhood memories today of me being with myself were quite fascinating, and and obviously the typical stuff, the run of the mill stuff that you did at that time, by playing sport or doing other co-curricular activities, which was something of most interest to me. And I think the fondest of friends and the greatest of friends and the greatest of memories that I have are from the cricket field, which I'm sure a lot of other people would be able to vouch for, or in an art room. Um, uh, or playing hide and seek with my friends. So these are the sort of moments that I do cherish as a child.
Great, and I see a lot of mention of cricket in all your conversations, and I've heard you in different platforms. I know your love for cricket. Lakshad, you're basically known to be at the helm of the HRH group of hotels, where the world relates you more with the properties that you own, like Lake Palace, Fateh Prakash Palace, Shiv Nivas Palace, Jagmandir Palace, and many other hotels and resorts around the country. But I personally know you as a person who is more inclined towards making a difference in the education sector. I mean, look at your Guinness Book of World Record. All four of them are towards making a difference, somewhere for the social cause in the education sector. In fact, not many people are aware that India's oldest all girls school was also started by your forefathers. Could you please share your connection with education and a little about the various schools that your trust owns?
Again, I think this is, that allows me to talk about the other earlier four lines that you spoke about, paradoxes. I think this is a complete paradox, because as I can see, some of my teachers and gurus that are very much online and listening, and I'm sure they would be able to attest what I am actually saying, that I have never been an academician, somebody who's never been interested in education. And when I say education, I mean the conventional education that people are used to understanding. Ki kitab uthao, padho, rato, or exam dene jao. So somebody who's never been fond of education from that perspective. So it has been a completely a full circle of who was given responsibility of the future of this nation of about 4,000 children. And the one thing that I was very sure of in my life is the fact that the way I was in school, or the way I was treated, or the way I felt at that time, and the conventional methodologies that existed, is something that other children do not have to go through. And if you were somebody who was aloof, somebody who was a loner, somebody who likes to think to themselves, somebody who spent a lot of time with themselves, shouldn't have to have the pressure of their atmosphere or their surroundings, or their environment. So that's how, unfortunate enough, that education and educating societies and building societies, क्योंकि the one thing that we believe कि इंसान जो है इस जीवन की सबसे पहली इकाई है, so the one of the most important roles that the human, as a human, that we play, and to be able to make societies. And from a human being is from where we make a house, and from a house we make a colony, from a colony we make a city, and from cities we start making societies. So I think the fact is that the people and the newer generation that is going to go into societies, they need to be shaped up and be made into a certain manner. So that is how I started to look at education. And one was fortunate enough to be able to find a team of that nature, or create a team of that nature in a small sort of a way. And your forefathers had very clearly left that impression in opening the first girl child school in 1864, which was way, 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 way beyond anybody's comprehension, and not just talking about it from 2 days ago. So that foundation was very strong, and your own personal experiences were very strong, and you wanted to make sure that that is what you really impart of people really becoming who they really want to become, and are able to excel, because today education from that perspective has become really diversified, and you have those choices and those streams to be able to do so. So it's the guidance part of it. Otherwise I think the intellect, the smartness, the creativity, and the approach will start flowing once they were given that direction, and one feels that that is the junction or pivotal area that one is at now for to be able to make that difference, and take it forward. So that's how I got involved in education. Is That's the mindset that I got involved with education. And obviously in the beginning run of it, there was obviously a lot of resistance, but as time kind of progressed, things moved on. The resistance kind of slowed down, but there wasn't any acceptance. Then that phase also passed, and then people started to absorb, and then slowly after that there was some sort of acceptance, and now people are beginning to see it. And especially one has to understand, sitting in America, or sitting in bigger multi other bigger cities, and all of that, things are very different as compared to these smaller cities, or third tier cities that kind of exist. And the mindsets of parents in these sort of cities is way different from Bombay, Delhi, and other parts of the world as well. So but surely but slowly we certainly have been able to make a dent in that mindset, and I hope that we carry on with the enthusiasm that we are at this point in time. So that's been my.
Interesting, Lakshraj. I mean, I could very well point out two main, reasons behind the success of the schools that you run. One is, of course, a student's narrative and student's perspective as to, I mean, how a school should kind of run. And of course, I mean, being a father to three lovely kids, of course, I mean, a lot of new ideas, would have come, and I'll come to that later as we move on. And Lakshat, as we all know by now that the royal family of Mewar supports many admirable causes, including education. Are there any causes which are particularly close to your heart?
I think everything is leading out of education, and I don't mean academic education. I think the fact of being evolved, the fact of it being evolving and involving yourselves with things, because anything and everything that one does, I think that it is the base formula that one has to really kind of concede and understand, because the idea is not to participate, the idea is to involve yourself, and that is the change that one is really trying to bring about, and not just give satisfaction at participation. Could be anything that you could be doing in life. Like for example, I'm not ashamed and really happy to keep that child alive in me, and I still collect Hot Wheels today, something that people may laugh at and people may feel funny about. Oh, look at this ideology or situation or whatever else it is. But that's been a great passion of mine. So things like that. So the idea is to encourage others. I can only give examples through myself that this is something that I really like doing, and whatever else that anybody else has close to their heart is something that they must do. कि सोच को इतनी गहरी मत करो कि फैसले कमजोर होने लग जाएं. So that is the faith that you really need to have. If you have a passion, if you have an ideology, you believe in it, you have the faith, then you must carry on without any hesitation. And the environmental pressures or societal pressures making those decisions for you. And today, for example, if I have such passions, I pursue them, and I am very happily and confidently pursuing them, and it gives me a lot of joy and a lot of satisfaction. And there is a lot of reading, learning, and things that I do. And I think to be a little selfish these days, and when I say selfish, I don't mean it conventionally. I mean it to try and pamper yourself, to look after yourself, to do good deeds, to do the things that you really wish to do, something that you're really passionate about, are things that one should really do. Those are the sort of things that are really, really close to my heart, and is to encourage people to do things that are close to their heart as well. Because I am, and I certainly feel that it's a great space and place to be at, and which I really think that other people should also experience, enjoy, and do something that is very close to their heart.
Interesting, very interesting. And I do remember, I mean, I have a picture clicked, I mean, where the entire ceiling right outside your office is made of Hot Wheels. So, yeah, I mean, when you
Hmm.
say that, I mean, I completely agree. 1500 years of lineage stands tall behind you, Lakshraj. Both your father and you have studied in Mayo College as mayor and abroad. What are the attributes that you think your children should derive from this rich legacy? And, what was the experience on your or your children's experience as being a royal from the commoners when studying?
Because one thing I will certainly say is, one thing that I will look differently is, what my children should do is something for them to decide, not for me to, in a technical and typical terminology, thopo on them. Is none of my business. My ideology is the fact that they should be people who should walk the right path and select those sort of things very carefully. Now, what they wish to do and how they wish to do it is something and totally is going to be their call. The idea is that they should be independent. They should be somebody who should be able to make their decisions. Somebody who should have confidence in making their decisions. Somebody who should use their own intellect to choose the path that they wish to choose, and not get something that is lumped upon them that this is something that you have to do. Do you have to be educated? Yes, you do. The field that you choose is a call that they need to make. They need assistance. One is very happy to help them to be able to do that. One is very happy to use resources and friends to be able to guide and to be able to point them in the direction that they wish and need to go to. But is the responsibility at the end of the day for what they do needs to rest with them, and that is something that we need to understand. And I certainly feel one more thing is the fact that as parents, if we start thinking that we are far more knowledgeable, capable, intelligent, clever, understanding, experienced, and all of that than our children, then that's the biggest myth that exists on this planet Earth. If you ask me today, are our children more intelligent than us? Absolutely. Should we be listening to them? Absolutely, we should be. What do you call? Are they going to be teaching us? I think they are. So it's not something that one has to conventionally understand that not everything that comes with age and experience is something that may be applicable to somebody else. And that is the learning that we have to do today, is to be able to learn from them and understand from them that, and open our hearts and minds and keep our egos and pride aside of trying to listen to a child or what they may wish to do. The fact speak to us about, and the child is able to communicate with us very, very openly. Now those are the sort of things that we wish to do, to happen, and not कि नहीं तुमको तो आर्टिस्ट बनना है या डॉक्टर बनना है या इंजीनियर बनना है या साइंटिस्ट बनना है या or whatever else that they may be. Now that's a call that they need to, or you have to absolutely only play cricket or whatever else that there may be. The fact is that what is it that um, uh, they have in them, because everybody brings in a certain strength, and to be able to have your eyes and ears open, to be able to see that strength within them, and to be able to cultivate that and bring that out of it is very, very important. Otherwise it's like trying to say that I'm going to plant a mango tree, but at the end of the day I'm going to expect watermelons. Now that's never going to happen. So the fact of the matter is that the plant is born with its own strength and capacities and deliverables, and those are the sort of things that the gardener needs to understand, that this plant is an X plant, and this is the fruit that it is going to bear, and that is what one needs to take forward. So exactly the same thing with these children as well, that rather than my expectations, because I am the father, or I am related to them in some shape or form, or whatever else it is, gives me some sort of power in me or authority in me to uh, you know, uh, waver the wand and things like that. That's not the delusion that one lives in. I think the independence is need to be respected of every age, be it 3 years, be it 2 years, be it 6 years, or be it 16 years. And that independence also needs to be given, which they also need to respect, and show that they are capable of respecting that, and add value to it with their own competence and skill set that they have achieved in that particular time frame. So it's not going to be a diktat. It's definitely going to be a conversation between people, and that needs to be accepted. It doesn't necessarily always have to be a conversation between two adults or two minors or one minor and one adult. All these sort of technical lenses don't need to come in the way to limit a certain and that is where again the concept of free spirit comes into play, that if you're actually saying it, mean it on the ground. So when you're talking to another being, whatever age that they may be, you need to give them that liberty to be able to speak rightly or wrongly. And at the end of the day, who's made us the judge for being able to decide what is right and what is wrong based on certain structures and systems? You can decide what is logical and what is not logical. But otherwise, that is what one really needs to be open to do, and allow these beautiful beings in this world to come out with their thoughts and ideas, and let them flow. And we need to be receptive, and we need to learn from them of what they have to say.
How well said, Lakshraj. I think, I mean, we can easily extract the top 10 parenting tips, I mean, from what you just said. And that also gives me an idea, I mean, that we should invite you for a parenting session as well soon. But, I mean, I completely agree that, I mean, we cannot, teach our children, I mean, as to what is really better. And, I mean, being a father to two lovely children, I mean, I think, I mean, they are way smarter than
The
we
three,
are.
three now.
Yeah, I mean, I have two children, so I mean, just being a father of two children, I mean, I think, I mean, they are much more smarter than me. So of course, I completely agree with what you said. uh,
So that is half the battle won. You know, being able to understand the fact that, I think that is where the first parents need to understand that, at the end of the day, just because they are a child does not mean that they may not have certain knowledge about certain things. If I don't understand certain concepts or certain things, I still go to them. I go to my 6 year old or 6.5 year old even today to ask certain questions about certain things which she has answers of which I would have no clue about. So there is no shame in being able to do that, and I think the fact that they own that knowledge or that skill in that particular segment is something that we need to learn to respect. And if there is something else that we know better, that's perhaps something that they are willing to understand and absorb, because they are a mold at this point in time which are ready to absorb anything that is thrown at them. But it's us who need to be ready to absorb what they are throwing at us. It can't be a one way sort of traffic.
complete agreement. And I have this question that I so wanted to ask you. And what a lovely coincidence, we have one of your school teachers also just joining in, Hari sir. Lakshraj, tell us more about your student life and also about the schools that you went to. Welcome, Jagpreet sir.
So what you call schools, fortunately, it was just one, which predominantly one, where one did their major part of the schooling was, of course, in Mayo. And now that we have Sir join in, obviously that seals me from being able to say a lot. But I think what I will certainly say at this junction is that, again, as I said to you, I made most of my friends on the cricket field. The other thing that I will certainly say, my greatest teachers and my greatest association and affiliation with my gurus also that came in on the cricket field. Now, for example, Hani sir is also, now that we're talking about it, and on the same platform, and it's so personal and to the point, is the fact that my association with Hani sir has never been as a housemaster. My association with Hani sir has always been as a cricket coach. Because at the time when we were getting coached in the classes that he would come, or as a coach, he would come on the ground and teach us and things like that and play cricket, has always been something that I have associated him as. And even till today, that is the association and that is the lens that one carries on as. Yes, he was a housemaster, he was a great housemaster, somebody who really did the balancing act really, really well, understood how to go through diverse situations and people and children who came from various different backgrounds, and to manage all of that was certainly a task. 120 of us was not a joke at that point in time to manage. And but coming back at the same time, so saying that the greatest moments have, as I said, have always been on either on the playing field or in the art school. And that is one of my professors or teachers or gurus that I completely and outrightly associate from our cricket field. And the conversations and the life lessons that we got from him, not as a housemaster or as a history teacher or whatever else it is, was more on the cricket field. So those are the sort of things that one really kind of takes back as memories. And even till today, those are the life lessons that you carry forward in your heart, and those are the lessons that you want to give as good practices to your own children.
Lovely, lovely. And what a lovely coincidence. I mean, I have your housemaster right next to you. Honey, sir, would you want to come in and
You made me so nostalgic, Ravi, and with Lakshyaraj sitting there now next to you, it's like, oh, I'm reliving those moments when Lakshyaraj actually moved into my house from the junior school. And as you rightly said, when I went to Eton to teach, I remember they said that the Battle of Waterloo was never fought in Waterloo; it was fought on the battleground, on the playgrounds of Eton, and that's what resonates with the words of Lakshya, because Lakshyaraj just now said, a very important word that he never learnt. He was never raised in a school where they were taught in the classes. They were taught outside the classes more than what they learnt inside the classes, and that's what public schools are. And I remember so well, he coming from junior school and coming then to my house, and those wonderful years, what we spent in the classroom, either learning history, that was not important at all. But as Laksharat said, on the play fields, I still remember a very beautiful anecdote. Laksharat had gone to England, to UK on an exchange, and when he came back, he had two cricket bats in his hand, and we went for the nets, and he says, "Honey sir, you bat with this bat." And that was Gray Nichols. I still remember, and that was the first time I holded a Gray Nichols bat in my hand for the first time. And I said, Lakshara, this is such a beautiful balanced bat. He says, and after the nets were over and I handed over the bat to him, he says, "Why are you giving this bat to me back? This is to my guru." And he that those, it's not tangible I'm talking about. It's the intangible what was in Laksharaj. And I still remember that moment. It's been a story more than 30 years, I mean 25 years, but I still
Great.
remember that moment, and that becomes so nostalgic. And when Laksharaj was narrating, that narrative was not only narrative, it was immense emotion. It was immense. It moved me on when Lakshya was talking about this. And see, he's grown up. He's from a young boy, he's grown up into a smart man today. But he remembers those moments of his school. He remembers those moments of his raising in a school and of his childhood. I think that's so remarkable about public schools.
No, we were fortunate to have teachers and gurus like yourself who were there, and we're talking about anecdotes and talking about situations. One can, once the brain starts bringing things out of the mind's cabinet or cupboard, things just keep popping out. I remember there was. We were all practicing and so on and so forth. And in the end, there were just three boys that were left when sir was making us do a catch practice. And he said, "Ki the last man standing is going to get an extra canteen coupon, and I'm going to take him there." And now all the three of us who were standing there were absolutely convinced that we had to be the one going to the canteen, because nothing after sports by your housemaster or your coach being taken to a canteen could be a greater treat than anything else. And fortunately enough, or unfortunately enough, I was the one who was last standing, or not. But the important point was that the three that were standing there and the two that were out, the fact is that sir said, "Ki now all three of you are going to be taken to the canteen." So now that completely changed the entire perspective 180 degrees. It didn't really matter. The fact of the matter is that we fought for that last thing really hard, but at the end of it, when we got rewarded, we understood what was the camaraderie, what was teammanship, what was being on the same page as concerned. Now, nothing could have taught us better by all of us going there and actually becoming a team, and those friends or those teammates of yours became closer friends rather than becoming rivals. So so those are the takeaways that you have in life of how things are to be treated, how things are to be managed, how things are to be looked after, or be taken care of. Is just those things will never leave your soul or your mind.
Ravi, if I may come in here,
sure?
Laksharaj is not talking about it. He's too modest. I know this boy very well. He's too humble. But let me tell you, this boy had an extraordinary, talent. He was very versatile. Let me tell you, when Laksharaj was there, he was very good in studies. He was a very humble boy, raised like a true public boy. He never had that attitude coming from Mewar, and that sort of a. But then more important was, apart from cricket, he exhibited great talent, great talent. But then in classroom, he would be an obedient student, doing every work, precisely. Very little people know that he was a classy tabla player. He played tabla so well. He has given solo performances. And I remember those evenings, the inter-house music evenings, when he played solo tabla and got a standing ovation. He will never talk about those moments, but he was a true public school boy who took everything from the school, whether it was performing art, whether it was still his photography. I mean, how can I forget about his photography? And Alok Sharma associated with him, who really, this boy is achieved. I mean, this boy has had hunger to learn and hunger to perform. He could have easily surpassed, he could have easily trespassed certain things, but he made it so obvious that he has come here to learn, and he's going to learn everything from your college. And I feel that is what the spirit is. When you come into a school, you have a hunger to learn, and this boy had it in him. And that's, I really remember just now. And I remember it was his birthday, and his father sent specially a gift for him. You know what was that gift, Laksharaj? You would remember 100%. It was a silver tabla set, which his father had sent, a beautiful silver tabla set. And he said, Hani sir, iska birthday aa raha hai, the day his birthday comes, please present it from my side. That passionate he was of music also.
But I'll have to actually dig deeper into the Mayo archive and get the videos out of,
No, no, I think
Lakshman playing
it's not
tabla.
the archives, it's the people that make the difference.
But I have three innocent questions here. Where is that bat? Where is that tabla? And yeah, I mean, two questions for now. Where is the bat and
No,
the
no,
tabla? Silver tabla. किधर है ये दोनों?
नहीं, तबले तो बिल्कुल है वेरी मच. अब नाउ इट्स अनदर मैटर कि अब जिंदगी और जीवन जो है अपने तबले बजा रही है वो अलग बात है. But
Wonderful.
no,
Moving
that
on,
that definitely has them very close to their heart.
Lakshman, moving on. I mean, you have on many occasions spoken about the dignity of labor, and as a matter of fact, I mean, I know that you also served as a waiter in a cafe during your student life. Could you share a little about the same?
I think more than being serving as a waiter or whatever else it is, the fact of the matter was that there are areas and spaces where you are where there is no judging. I think that is what is more important. People are able to deliver better and do their job in a certain manner where where there are no judgments. And I think and that is what Australia was able to provide for those 3.5, 4 years that one was there in that particular society. So be it being a waiter, be it washing dishes, be it cleaning toilets, be it changing bed sheets, whatever else, or becoming a manager at the end of it and climbing the ladder and being able to deliver a better job to the customers. I think that is what is more important.
Yeah, I think we lost you, Lakshman. We can hear you.
Which is, I think, what is most fascinating, which is something that you can do without having sort of pressures and things around you of being or thinking of what X is going to think or Y is going to think or the neighbor is going to say or this is going to say. Those sort of things, those inhibitions got taken care of, and I think that power comes from the mind. And I still feel that one can still go ahead and do that because, and I think that is where you start respecting the person on the other side also. So if somebody is serving you or somebody is there, but these things should really come from within to be able to appreciate, understand, and respect the other person as well. And these were things that we always had in us right from when we began. But it's the environment around you, the way it looked at you, is what perhaps put the brakes on in your mind and so on. And then you got the encouragement to kind of overlook it, to grow above it, rise above it, and carry on. So, and I think it only ends up making you into a greater, a better human being, which allows you to respect a lot of things that are beyond or beyond your own nose or right under your own nose.
Okay, tell me an honest confession, Lakshman. Did you learn to make that brilliant cappuccino while serving in that cafe?
Oh, absolutely. No, no, there is no question about it. I'm never going to lie. I'm not known to to say another fact unless or until it is. Oh, absolutely. I was very grateful to my owner. Actually, the guy whose cafe it was, he was a very passionate barista. And then I would take a leaf or a line from what Hanisa just mentioned, that I was really, really keen and wanting to learn and absorb and hungry. So there was no question about it. And that is how it प्यासे को जो है वो कुएं के पास जाना पड़ता है, कुआं प्यासे के पास नहीं आएगा. So one was very, very keen to learn, to understand, and the owner kind of picked up on it, and he really kind of taught me really, really well of what I really need to do and how I really need to do it and the science behind it. And and one was able to go to a lot of these bean places where there was a lot of classes that took place as well. So one was fortunate enough to be able to meet baristas who were in the World Championship League to be able to tell you certain good things and good practices that you had to do while making a good cup of coffee. So one picked up from there, and I'm grateful to my owner as well, who was patient enough to teach me. And fortunately, since then, one's never looked back, and one is able to make a half a decent cup of coffee.
Wonderful. And for all those folks, I mean, who are still wondering why I raised this question, I mean, Lakshraj makes one of the best coffees, I mean, that anyone has ever had. And whenever I'm in Udaipur, I get a chance to visit his palace and his office. I mean, he kind of that's
And Ravi,
one of the
not
most
to forget, your picture on that coffee.
exactly. And I still wonder where does he get that picture from? आज तक कभी वो suspense खुला नहीं है. I
मेरे को
thought
पता है. The moment you enter, there is a camera on his gate which clicks you, and when you're served the coffee, your coffee on the right on the top of the coffee is your picture.
but 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 sometimes,
I,
Hari
I,
sir,
I
sometimes
I
that
was going to say that it's the artist in me that draws it out, you know. Now, sir has let the cat out of the bag.
no, but then again, let me tell you, Hari sir, sometimes I mean the picture that he puts on that coffee, I mean, is not is of some other day when you're not wearing that particular attire. So he has many different sources. So yeah, so
The
brilliant.
ScooNews, that is the ScooNews picture, because that coffee I saw that wearing, and it was instant. And I kept wondering, because that was the first time in my life I saw somebody serving me coffee with my picture on it. So I thought whether I take this coffee cup home or I really drink it. You're drinking coffee, sir.
Wonderful, wonderful. But what fond memories. And Lakshya, moving on, what are your thoughts on inclusion in the mainstream schooling? Any stories or lessons from your schooling days?
No, I don't know if I'm qualified enough to even answer that question in the first place, but I'm really happy to see that the changes that are coming out around in our educational world just now, in our academic world just now, and the fact that I think this has been the greatest example in the last 18 months or so, and God knows how long it is going to last as well. That the revolution that has come in and the adaptation that the education world has done in the last couple of years has absolutely been phenomenal. How technologies come in and played a role as well, which has been interesting. But I'm sure, I think as time progresses, a lot of things are going to evolve. A lot of things is going to become adaptive. A lot of things are going to go out of classrooms as well. And I think that is where one really needs to go, where the mind is really challenged. And I think the systems that have been archaic and been set up in stone for many centuries for benefiting other people or other societies, and to use and abuse a certain society or strata of people that were kind of existent. So that entire system is now, I think, getting challenged. Is something that's not going to happen overnight. But the fact of the matter is that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. And the fact is that there are conversational discussions that are taking place, changes and experiments that may be trying. I can understand the fact that greatest of success. But the fact is that we are beginning to change. We are accepting the fact that a system does need some change. And that is, I think, the beauty of it. And I'm sure eventually, with the academicians, with the people who have that kind of qualification and the understanding and the insight and the in-depth knowledge of knowing that what is actually required in today's context for our future to kind of go ahead. Because at the end of the day, today we are a country which is over 60-70% youth. And I think what is really going to make them the strongest is going to be this field. And I say, if the 19th century belonged to the British, if the 20th century belonged to the United States of America, the 21st century will and certainly will belong to the Indians. And the route through that belonging to the 21st century will be through education. And I do strongly believe that that evolution will come in times to come, as we have embarked on that journey now.
Lovely. I mean, you said 21st century is certainly going to be of India, but it seems, I mean, half of it is going to China. On a lighter note,
Yes.
how is a day in Lakshraj's life as a father to three lovely kids? Tell us more about your parenting style.
Sorry, how is a day in my life as
A father to three lovely kids. I mean, how
oh
is Lakshraj as a
no,
daddy?
I think no, I think I grow every day with them. You know, I think there is no other way or specific pinpointed answers. I think the concepts are very open, and the fact is that one really gets to learn from them, to sit down with them, to be a child with them. So, and I think that is what is putting a smile on their face, or they putting a smile on your face, and I think which is what the beauty of it is. And the idea is not to prove to be the greatest father or the greatest child, but the idea is to keep improving. So the idea is not to prove but to improve, and that is what one does as a human being, as a father, as a parent, as an individual. One, and they are great sources of energy, enthusiasm, and inspiration to keep improving.
I hope you don't allow them to play hide and seek in the palace. I mean, it would take days to find them when they. Wonderful. I have a couple of more questions, and at this stage, I mean, I would want to open the floor to a few other people. I'm kind of opening this to everyone. Please raise your hand if you have any specific question to Lakshraj. And Lakshraj, you have been a hotelier and education leader, an excellent orator, a Guinness World Record holder, a great social volunteer. But rarely does people know about your love for the poetry. Where did that come from?
I think that came in from Sufi music. I think listening to a lot of Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan from the age of 3. I think that has been the greatest gift that my brother-in-law perhaps could have ever given me. And the fact that he introduced me to this music at such a young age, because he was a keen listener, and Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, obviously, as we all know, had some of the greatest poetry in his Qawwali, and that's where one came in with that enthusiasm and keenness and passion towards it. And then, fortunately, as the world grew, you were able to make a lot of friends in the world of poetry and get close to a lot of people in the world of poetry, and then they kind of further enhanced and helped you to take that side of you or that passion of yours forward. So I think it began with Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan in a car, in an audio cassette, and today one is really happy to say that by having poetic friends, people who live, breathe poetry, is something that one can say that a bit of it is also something that one does with them or without them through the means of the 21st century technology.
Wonderful, wonderful. I keep seeing a lot of different poetries. I mean, and of course, I mean, one poetry is written right behind. I mean, where you sit. I think, I mean, that was gifted by you by Celis, Celis Nora. So yeah, I mean, that's one of the poetry. I mean, that of course I'm a big fan of. Finally, what are your thoughts on the technology in education? Is your school using EdTech? If yes, could you throw some light on that aspect, please?
Is our school using, sorry, what?
Education technology. I mean, I remember, I mean, you picking up some robots and kind of, I mean, doing some experiments in the school. I mean, what are the technologies that your schools are using? And, if you could throw, yeah,
And
Lakshya, there.
interestingly enough, what we have done is the fact that we've made that a part of our art curriculum. So, for example, the robotics lab has not been attached to a science sort of concept. What we've tried to do an experiment is the fact that where there is a potter's wheel that one is trying to run with all that mud and everything and all of that, and right beside it is the lab for robots, and on the other, so it's a complete journey that one is actually going through, that that one is able to see and experience that where it all began with mud and hands, and on the other side is completely going into robotics. The third thing is obviously with the 3D things that are coming in. So from hand to 3D. So earlier the sort of things that were made by hand, and now that they are being printed through a 3D computer and technology. So those sort of things one is kind of encouraging. One is trying to take those sort of things forward. One is completely for it, but in the right balance, not kind of create anything or too much is something obviously we believe is not very good, but in the right proportions, slowly and steadily introducing it to this city and school where the receptiveness is there, and step by step trying to go in to take it forward and hopefully introduce more technology and infuse it a little bit more, as and where you see the gaps and where it is really going to be fruitful and productive.
Interesting, interesting, and there are a few hands. I mean, few folks who are raising your hand. I mean, it is really recommendable if you actually add something in your bio, folks. Yes, the Prajapati and a few others. But yeah, I mean, let's move on to Colonel Sekhar and Vikramjeet, and then we'll have Hani sir again, and then we'll end this session. So, Colonel, please unmute and
Fascinating hearing all of it. Hello to you, sir. I've heard you
Hello,
live.
greetings.
Yeah. Simple question. What has been over the last 16 months the biggest challenges for you as a trustee of schools and as a father to three lovely children? What have been the three most significant challenges?
Interesting. Challenges, I would really say, is the fact that I think something that you are confronted with that you know nothing about. I think in 100 years, a situation or a circumstance of this nature has not been witnessed by anyone. So I think the unknown. So I think the biggest thing, the first and the second and the third thing that I would really say is the unknown, the unknown, and the unknown. So getting used to the unknown, trying to decode the unknown, and trying to find a solution to the unknown. So I think those have been the greatest challenges, because this is not something that you can go somewhere next door to and ask, अरे भाई इसका solution क्या है? अरे ये आपने पहले देखा हुआ होगा या इसका तजुर्बा होगा या कोई आपको experience होगा. So everybody for a change has all of us or the entire universe where the time has stood still and come to a standstill, and everybody is looking blank. So that I think has been personally, individually, been the greatest challenge. And I think the beautiful part has been to be able to decode it, to uncode it, to try and move forward, to try and find a solution, something that nobody knows nothing about, something that nobody has experienced anything like this in their entire life before, where you were actually cooped up at home and been stuck at in behind closed doors, never had to kind of think of such a circumstance. You always think of scenarios, you always think of situations, you always create hypotheticals, but nobody ever kind of thought of something like this, which I think has been the greatest challenge.
And running a school, running two schools, I have always been envious of all the skill sets Sanjay seems to have at his disposal, courtesy you. What has been the greatest monetary, financial? Everyone has taken a hit. How did you manage to sustain the school over the last 16 months?
I think the only thing that one will say is the fact that it's not something that you did in those times, but what you did before that has been the greatest. The way you ran your school earlier in a systematic manner, with the right sort of approach, with enough to understand that you had to do in keeping in terms in mind where you wanted your school to be in terms of growth, in terms of disaster sort of situations and things like that. I think those earlier and better practices allowed you to kind of sail through for the first some time, and then in the middle, when there was a bit of breather and oxygen that kind of came in, also allowed you to kind of keep your head above water. And the resources that you had before, they were very wisely used and not just kind of burnt. So the fact of the matter is that the resources that existed with the institution earlier were not being frivolously managed or in whims and fancies, being managed very constructively, logically, in a proper manner. Were being thought of and used. So those were the sort of decisions in the past, before the 18 months or 2 years that we had been following for a decade or if not more, came in handy and made sure that we survived that year, or surviving the years now that have actually gone by, coming almost to 2 years, over 1.5 years now.
That only leads me to one more question, sir, if you can. Where do you see your school in 2047? Where you believe this is the century for India?
Very honestly, at this point in time, I think it is literally a second at a time. To be able to go that far, I think we really need to focus on the present. I think the situation that has been confronted with us at this point in time is where all our energies are. I think once we see some sort of light at the end of the tunnel, is where one is going to be able to see beyond them. I think till the time we don't reach that situation, I think where one can't even see beyond a week at this point in time. Now people are asking about the third wave, especially talking about it hitting the children the hardest in August and September. If WHO is to or the guidelines or their um, uh, warnings that they have put out are to be believed in any shape or form or to be gone by, then even August, September kind of looks exceptionally difficult to go by, and especially the age group that the schools and universities are really kind of dealing with. So 47 is really a long shot away at this point, and I think till the time we don't tide over the next some time or the next couple of years, to be able to say below that, I will only be bluffing or guessing, and that is certainly something that I really don't wish to do.
Wonderful, sir. You have hit my last bar to a 12, not a 6. Back to you, Ravi. Wonderful answer.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel, for the interesting questions here. Vikram Paji, Laksharaj, I have to introduce you to Vikramjit Singh Ruprai. He is one of my most favorite people. I mean, the gentleman who left his well-paying job as an IT developer, software developer, just left the entire thing for his passion for heritage and history. And recently, he also created a game, Princely State of India, and Udaipur is one of them. And when I asked him to, send one deck of the cards to you, he said no. I mean, going to the Mewar dynasty. I mean, this has to be delivered to Laksharaj by hand and not by courier. So I welcome you, Vikramjit, and I believe that he is one of the most intelligent and knowledgeable man when it comes to history and heritage and how to teach it to the students. Over to you, Vikram. I mean, if you have any question, you would want to add something to it.
Sure, Ravi, thank you. And Lakshraj, it's an honor to be here and speaking to you. I have
Thank you so much. Same here.
uh,
Privilege.
I have always been fascinated by uh, things that are associated with royalty, Mewar being one of the prominent houses, and it has. So this one curious question has always popped whenever I thought about schools that are running in heritage properties. How easy or difficult it is to run a school within a heritage property, because even the government has so many these thing conditions. Ki the building has to be like this, or the people have to be like this. So although we have Mayo College being one of Mayo School being one of them, and Jakpreet sir is also running a school with heritage building, heritage property. So what are your views on that?
So as much as there may be disadvantages to such buildings, the greater advantages are the fact that the regulations and things that come in now, these buildings are really huge.
Hmm.
So that is something that really is kind of something that makes life a little simpler in terms of larger corridors, larger classrooms, bigger spaces. So there are, as much as other people may think that there may be disadvantage to those sort of places, and I'm sure there must be. And I think in every scenario there is something or another that is to its advantage and to its disadvantage. And in this regard, one is really happy to say that you are we look at the glass as more as half full than half empty. And the fact is that it's um, uh,
Laksharaj, we lost your voice. I hope you're there.
relate to in terms of when they come from home and when they see something different. So that itself, the building itself becomes a little educational to them rather than just something that has been soulless in a lot of ways. So these are areas that can be
Beautiful.
talked
That's
about.
actually,
Ji.
yeah. So that was kind of my hidden question, or rather, second part of the question, that how does the premise and the historic connection helps in the learning of a child?
So exactly. So like that's what I was just getting to, and what I was going to say is the fact that the areas that were earlier utilized for the purposes that they were utilized, and now they are being utilized to kind of grow and enlighten younger minds, and to throw them to other sort of facets. Like for example, one of the areas in the school was used as a car inspection pit. So now that car inspection pit has been kept as it is, intact, restored, but we filled water in it and put some fish. So the fact of the matter is that everybody wonders that what is this actually doing here. So the original concept was that it was an inspection pit. So you can imagine the amount of space that must have existed around it, and those people are able to, or the children are able to put that building into perspective, are being able to understand the fact that this is what it originally was used for, and the purpose that kind of existed was this, and they learn something new about their own environment that they are coming to, or as a piece of history, as as a part of the nation or the city, and they walk through it, live through it, breathe through it.
So amazing. Thank you. Thank you.
वंडरफुल। खान साहब, बोलिए क्या बोलना चाहते हैं आप?
So thank you very much, first of all, for giving me this chance. This is my honor to being presenting in front of Lakshyaraj Singh Mewar, sir. So
Any pleasure.
my first concern is ki how your school is giving a climate regarding entrepreneurship and startups in this younger age, and how your school is contributing the syllabus regarding entrepreneurship in your journal, because this is the problem I faced in my school life, and now I am facing this still, because I am belonging from rural area. This is Bikaner, and my past 6 years I've spent in Delhi. So there are many problems coming in this rural areas, and I have tried past year that my mission was that making rural the new urban, but I'm facing this problem because there are many lack of opportunities which are being available in Delhi. But due to COVID, I can't visit Delhi now, and I'm doing my startups and running my functioning my business from here only. So how your school will be motivating or giving the climate regarding entrepreneurship?
Lovely question. So the idea to this, sir, is the fact that we have a very strong a skill based institution within the institution. So at the end of the day, we have focused a lot on your own hands and your own skill. So as a startup, you may want to look at it as a startup, or you may want to look at it as a fact that there is an individual who's been equipped and is being given the intellect, the technical know-how, and the skill to be able to pursue something beyond once they kind of pass out of school. So coming to specifics, so for example, if they are interested in art, in the field of tie and dye, so to speak, so they are being exposed to that particular area. If they're interested in robotics, then they're being taught about robots, being able to give an insight about how those sort of things are. So tomorrow, if they wish to start their own business in that particular field, then they can try and do that. If they wish to become a photographer, photography is a certain segment that they can be talked about. So basics are being talked about in a lot of genres, in a lot of areas that a lot of children have interest in and what they wish to kind of do. So from that perspective, we start them on that journey by exposing them to their areas of interest. And tomorrow, if they wish to pursue it further and take it on further, then once they pass out of school, they can really take it out there. But when they kind of go to that platform, they are not blank. It's not a clean slate. They do have basics on them. They know what it is. So tomorrow, if somebody tries to speak to them in a language that is specific to their field, then they know that somebody cannot make a fool out of them 100%. The rest of the research, the understanding is something that they will have to have, but they will have the basic skill set and the technical know-how on them to be able to further develop the startup initiative or the startup skill or the enthusiasm that they have within them.
दैट्स अ ग्रेट आंसर सर। मैं सर एक चीज़ और पूछना चाहूँगा आपसे कि ये जो चीज़ है मेकिंग रूरल न्यू अर्बन, इसमें हम आपका अगर कोई स्ट्रेटजी हो या आपके दिमाग में कोई आइडिया हो कि हम किस तरह से कर सकते हैं। जैसे यहाँ पे मैंने अभी एक रियल स्टेट में मैंने देखा है कि दिल्ली वगैरह में ये था सीन कि एक कंपनी था इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का, वो अपनी लेबर का और डेली मॉनिटरिंग कैसे करता था, वो ड्रोन से देख लेते थे, बॉस बैठते थे ऑफिस में और ड्रोन से वो देख लेते थे। यहाँ पे लेबर का जो कल्चर है, सारी चीज़ें बहुत बहुत डिफरेंट है एक रूरल एरिया में और एक अर्बन एरिया में। तो इसको हम एक मतलब रिवॉल्यूशन किस तरह से लेके आए ताकि लोग हमारी चीज़ को भी समझे कि हाँ ये चीज़ ठीक है। अभी यहाँ पे तो किसी के पास जाते हैं वो कहता है भैया हमारा तो काम ऐसे ही हो रहा है, आप ये चीज़ें क्यों बता रहे हो हमें। तो मतलब इसको लोगों के आंसर कैसे दें कि आप इसकी तरफ जाओ और उनको अपनी तरफ कैसे इंक्लाइन करें, अगर आपका कुछ इस पे रुझान हो तो।
Khan Khan Sahab, certainly what I can do is, I mean, on your chat, I mean, I can send you the email ID of his office. And of course, Laksharaj, I mean, if you allow, I mean, I can share the email ID so that you can actually put up the question in a more detailed manner and you can answer it through that.
But इसके अंदर
ओके
मेरा
सर,
नहीं, आई थिंक इन वन लाइन द आंसर इज कि सर दिली और दिमाग की खिड़कियां खोलने की लोगों की आवश्यकता है, उसके अलावा और उसके बाद या उसके पहले और कुछ भी नहीं होगा। So if anything that needs to be done, I think a lot of conversation and a lot of explaining has to be done in people. A lot of effort has to be made. A person who's interested and enthusiastic about such things, first and foremost, अगर ज़हनी तौर पे, दिली तौर पे, रूहानी तौर पे अगर इंसान की खिड़कियां अगर नहीं खुली हैं, तो there is no amount of progress you will ever be able to make in anything that you do. Not only as far as people are concerned, children, labor, whoever it may be. The fact of the matter is that unless they are not receptive or dry as a sponge to be able to absorb what you're saying, there is going to be no progress that is going to be made. Yes, as far as how you do that, that can be brainstormed about by anybody, and how to kind of do that and to take it forward.
Fantastic.
Right,
Thank you, Khan
thank you,
Saab. And
thank you.
over to you, Japrit sir. And then I'll kind of make my concluding remark. I have a very interesting fact that no one has noticed yet. So yeah, I mean, over to you, Honey sir.
Laksharaj, my question is very, very observant. And what we were talking about legacy schools, and when we were talking about the heritage buildings, and when we were talking about the public schools.
Ji sir.
Laksharaj, my question to you is: we are in a world which we never imagined to be in. And when a boy chose to be in a public school, like when you came into a public school, the very concept was, and a very holistic child who will come out as a smart human being and who would come out as a better human being, and which the school would transform him into into a more responsible citizen. Now, what I'm seeing is in our public schools where the boys live 24/7 in the campuses, and they let the campuses grow on them, and that is why the boys are not able to
Hello.
Honey sir, we just lost your.
allow you to grow.
Honey
In
sir, you'll
fact,
have to repeat. 1 second. Last 10 seconds we lost you. You'll have to kind of repeat the
oh,
question,
okay.
please.
So I was just asking Laksharaj that when Vikramjit was asking this question, how legacy schools are, how this great heritage buildings, what is that happens to a child when the child lets this campuses grow on him? He becomes a part of the legacy. He becomes a part of that culture, and they live in the school with a great legacy and culture what they grow with. But what I'm seeing is they also develop, which you will absolutely agree with me, because I've seen you grow in the school. I've seen you as a housemaster, I've seen you as a teacher, as coach, or as whatever. You allowed yourself to transform. You became far more responsible and a far more matured person in the school. You started looking at the two aspects, which is sharing and caring. Now, the last 2 years, we've seen the boys have not even seen the campus. They've not even been there. There's going to be a huge cultural vacuum which will come in the country now. How will we face this? I mean, apart from other diversities which we will go in, the major setback which will come is the boys not coming to the school, and the boys and girls who are not coming back to, forget about the public school, even not going to the classrooms. They are online, they are becoming self centered. Do you think this is going to be a great disruptor in the time to come?
Absolutely, sir. Believe it or not, I feel that with my own 6-year-old, to be very honest, and I think it's criminal of what is actually
Sorry, Lakshraj, we lost your voice. I think some network issue. Lakshraj, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
school and all of that. At the end of the day, what is the school built by? Not by its infrastructure, but obviously by the other people, other children, other teachers, everybody else who's there, from your farashes to the other people who exist. All of those are the people who actually make the school. Your canteen bhaiyas, or the people in the mess, who you actually literally beg for one small spoon of butter for, or whatever else it may be. At the end of the day, it's the people that are making the environment and the individual. It's not really the infrastructure from that perspective, or the bare bones of the school is not what is making the individual. So it's the loss of being able to be around an environment or your same age group, that these children who have left out on for a few weeks or a few months is fine, but now this is something that is almost coming to 2 years of non peer environment of having a single soul around you, or going and meeting anybody around you. And the bigger shock is going to be when these things will open up eventually. What is going to be the scene? Will people be able to hug each other? Will people be able to hold each other? Will people be able to touch each other? What is going to happen? Because this is the sort of environment or the nature or the background or the culture that we all come from, and we are all stuck to each other like an adhesive which is inseparable. So that in its mental capacity, in its emotional capacity, is obviously taken a huge hit and a huge toll. And I see it with my children as well. And even day going school children who've not been able to meet their friends or peers for God knows how long. I know my little one hasn't met one for over years, and that is completely devastating. And I can only imagine that how much mind do you divert of somebody, how much tablet do you make them watch, how much on the playground do you spend them, and you send them on the playground to play with who? With adults or people their own age. Now where are you going to find children their own age who are own everybody who's locked up in their own houses as well? So that is certainly something which has been extremely disturbing. And in 2016 it was very clearly said that the greatest issue that is going to be faced in 2020, and we didn't even know that this was going to happen to us, in greatest thing that is going to be faced in 2020 and post 2020 is going to be depression. And earlier depression wasn't even considered as a disease. Now today it is being designated and considered as a disease. And that is what I really, and I think this has really expedited that particular matter. And schools will really now need to look at counselors and depressions and all of that in a very different form of how children and students and adults are also, and specifically teachers, are going to be behaving towards all these sort of things, and especially what everybody has gone through in the last 2 years. I wish I had some solutions to this, but I think being aware, being prepared, and trying to think about all of this is something that is hopefully going to help us manage this environment better. But as far as the institutions are concerned, I think they're certainly made out of people, and the ones that are around you is what kind of really shapes you up at the end of the day.
Well, thank you, Lakshraj, but I really feel sorry for the generation because uh, being an educationist, I mean, for last 3.5 decades now, I see there's a tremendous value loss which is coming to the country, and I see not only education being suffered, I see a real value deterioration which will come in
That
the
is true, sir.
society.
I couldn't agree with you more. That is
Yes.
absolutely correct.
Thank you, Lakshraj. Thank you,
Thank you.
Ravi.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, thank you. So here we come to the towards the end of it. But a fun fact: did anyone notice that Lakshraj has rarely used the word "I" and instead he used the word "one has" or "we"? To me, Lakshraj, this is a sign of royalty in every expression. Thank you so much for joining in, and thank you, Hani sir, for making time. And Lakshraj, I mean, truly an honor to be speaking to you through this new platform called Clubhouse. And I look forward to kind of meeting you soon at your palace, where I can have that amazing coffee with
Looking
my,
forward.
yeah.
Anytime. Anytime. I look forward.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. And please do follow the moderators here, I mean, me and Lakshraj, and also do follow Education India, the channel, I mean, where we keep inviting such amazing luminaries of speakers. And see you ultra soon. Thank you so very much. Have a great